Good evening and welcome back to Deep Images. On the heels of our Hallows Eve 2024 coverage, we are beginning a brand new horror-centric series. This time around, we'll be tackling vampires. Regarding this sanguine subject, we will be discussing some of the usual suspects that we have not gotten around to in the past, and some very unusual suspects. So, some classics, some obscurities. Joining me in this first blood-soaked session will be these amazing folks. Co-hosts C.F. Roberts and Justin Cotton, veteran panelists Bill Mulligan, Francis Chu, and Briggy Williams, and awesome newcomer Aaron Garland. And I am Henry Covert. So please join us as we begin season 4 of Deep Images. It would not be possible if not for you guys. If you would drop a like and subscribe to the channel, it would help us out tremendously. So let's get into it. Hi, welcome back to Deep Images, and we are with you once again with even more vampires. We're kind of flogging a dead corpse here, but um, so we are going to be continuing this talk on bloodsuckers, and we're going to turn it over to Frances. She's got an interesting one to talk to us about.
Yeah, mine is Once Bitten from 1985. It was directed by Howard Storm and starred Jim Carrey as Mark Kendall, the protagonist, um, Lauren Hutton as the Countess Vampire, and Cleavon Little as her butler. And then two other guys, sorry, I can't remember their names. Thomas Ballatore as one of Mark's friends. I think his name is Russ, and the other one, I'm sorry, I cannot remember at all.
It's okay. They're probably sounds like they're a minor character.
Yeah. Anyway, this was released in November 1985. And it's mostly about how it's kind of like Captain Kronos that you mentioned last week, Briggy. And
Yes.
yeah, and it starts up with the Countess wanting to stay young. And the only way she can do that is by sucking the blood of a male virgin three
A
times by
male version.
Halloween. And so they think that really should be no problem at all, even though they're in Hollywood. And there are, of course, very, very few male virgins in Hollywood. So basically that's what's set out.
Well,
And at the
they
same
might be
time,
they might be virginal with women and adults,
perhaps, yeah.
but not
And
with
then
other.
there's Mark, the protagonist, played by Jim Carrey. And he is trying to get busy with his girlfriend, played by Robin, played by
Did you just
Karen
say he was
Cope.
trying to get busy?
Yeah, I said trying to get busy. Yep. I know it's a 1980s word.
It's all right.
But anyway, yeah,
We
he's
knew
trying to
your
get
hip.
busy with her, and she is reluctant because she's a good girl, of course. And what happens after that? Yeah, so
You t-
he and his two friends head off to a Hollywood bar, and he gets lured away by the Countess. And she brings him to her mansion, and sucks his blood. So that's one so far. And then after that, he starts getting kind of like strange things start happening. He's avoiding sunlight. He's drinking not blood, but like extremely raw steaks
Hmm. That
and
seems to be the
staying in.
gateway drug in some of these
Yeah,
movies.
exactly. And then Robin finds out that he slept with the Countess, or actually another woman, and they sort of have a quarrel about it, and then they make up. And it's interesting. I just want to mention this because this is going to come in later about with the historical commentary. But basically, he says, "Oh, I understand. You're, you're a good old fat. I mean, you're a typical girl. You want to be prim and proper." And she says, "Oh, you sound like you're in the 1950s." And he goes, "Well, I'm an old-fashioned guy." So anyway, at this point, I think they go to the one store where Robin works, and he's there, and somehow the Countess pops up, and he her blood, sucks his blood, and then after that, there's a dance, and it's a really hysterical scene. I think they just have it, on YouTube, even if they don't have the movie, and it's where Robin, the Countess, and Mark are having, they're at the high school dance for Halloween, and they're basically pulling him in their direction. And of course, Robin wins. And then after that, she goes and she finds out. I mean, she wants to find out, are there actually vampires in Hollywood? Is there such a thing? And the bookseller says, well, this is the easiest place for them to really blend it because it's Hollywood, anything goes. And after this,
Booksellers are smart. I was one for 15 years.
what?
I said booksellers are sharp. I was one for
Yes.
15 years.
Oh wow,
You know
I
what's
didn't
up.
realize. Mhm.
Go
So
ahead.
then after that, she gets sorry, he gets kidnapped by the Countess, and Robin and his friends basically try to find him, and they go to the Countess's mansion and everything. And the Countess and her vampires are basically chasing them around the place. And Robin and Mark manage to find this. They get into this little detour and they find this room with colossal coffins. They seal themselves in one and start having sex. And then finally, the
Robin and
Countess.
Mark start having sex, but they're
Yes,
sealed
Robin and
up.
Mark are having sex. Yeah, in the coffin. And then the Countess arrives and realizes that, hey, he is no longer a virgin, and she starts getting old right before their very eyes. And that's kind of the end, except for our butler saying to her, I guess you're going to go to Kansas because that's probably the only place where you'll have a male virgin.
Where do you say go to where?
Kansas.
Kansas.
Now, this was 1985, so things have obviously changed by then, but that
Cleavon
was
Little played this guy character.
yeah, Cleveland Little.
Man,
And of course,
how he has fallen from Black Bart.
what?
How far he has fallen from Black
Yeah.
Bart.
Actually, this is the first time I've seen him in a movie.
You've never seen Blazing Saddles?
No, unfortunately, I want to see that movie.
He's the star of it.
It's great.
Okay.
He's Black Bart. It was so popular, they even gave him his own series. But by the time the series was ready, Cleavon Little didn't want to do it, so they got Louis Gossett Jr. and they did a pilot episode, and it was terrible. But it was in continuity with Blazing Saddles.
Oh, wow. And anyway, I found this movie interesting just because it is so 1980s. I mean, you have this whole idea of it is very conservative. I mean, this is like the heyday of Reagan. So you have Robin kind of winning out over the Countess. What?
The beginning of the end, as some of us call
it. Yeah, exactly. I mean, you have Robin played up in this, she's usually in white or pastels, and the Countess is always in black. And by the way, she is sort of like a leftover from the 70s. I mean, she's single, she's older, very sophisticated. I mean, kind of like the Charlie girl in the Revlon cartoon. I mean, the Revlon commercials of that time.
Yeah.
So I mean, you have to sort of like, the Countess. So
and Lauren Hutton in real life was a model.
She was a model. Yeah, she was a model.
Yeah.
I mean, she was like, basically your cosmopolitan woman. That kind of thing.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is really falling away in the 1980s. I mean, you're having this, sort of this monogamy. Conservatives. I mean, sex is only okay if you're straight and if you're in a monogamous relationship. And so that's like there's like a lot of poking fun at gays, like with Cleavon Little, and then there's the two friends of Mark. I mean, they basically cannot get laid at all, and people think they're gay. I mean, there's one really amusing scene in the locker where they're trying to find out whether Mark is a vampire or not. So they're trying to, look at his thigh, and all of a sudden, you hear these guys with fag alert, and they're so embarrassed. It's like, oh my god, we might as well get his and his towels. So, this is just very, very conservative.
No slight on Bob Clark, who we reviewed 2 of his movies for Halloween, but this movie sounds more like Porky's than a vampire movie to me.
This, I mean, it's a comedy. It really is. I mean,
I kind of figured that.
Yeah.
Was this Bob Clark?
No. I'm just saying it reminded me more of the Porky's mentality than like,
Okay.
When was that made, by the way?
When? Porky's?
Yeah. Porky's. When was that?
I don't know.
Early 80s.
Oh, okay, that would make sense.
Sounds like an 80s movie.
Around the same time as Fast Times at Ridgemont High. And
I mean, this is much more comedy than horror. I mean, I think it might be kind of like Fright Night, but probably more of a comedy than that. I'm not sure. You're going to be talking about that, right, Briggy?
Yes.
That's a spoiler. No, I'm kidding. Well, I talked about Night of the Comet and Vamp, both incredibly 80s horror comedies, which I personally think were both amazingly successful. And Rhiannon talked about Return of the Living Dead, which to me is kind of at the and Reanimator, and those are at the top of that perch. So you just decided to drag the bottom of the barrel, Francis. Why? No, I'm kidding. I'm just joking. No,
No, but it does make you wonder why do we have this turn to comedy? Is it because people are so used to this vampire genre in the 1960s and 70s that they think this is a great thing to parody?
well, I think a
Maybe.
great one from the 70s is one that Keith covered
Oh, like
last year.
Love at First Bite, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I loved that movie. But see, this is the problem. I wanted on Blu-ray, but I didn't want Once Bitten. But you have to get both of them together
Oh no.
on one disc, and I was like, what's up with that? Um, so what's your verdict on Once Bitten, and have any of y'all seen it?
Unfortunately, no, I haven't seen it.
Usually, fortunately.
Well, oh, wait. Oh, yeah, I keep getting Once Bitten and Love at First Bite mixed up, actually. But
I get Once
Because they're
Bitten
both
and
comedies.
Vampire's Kiss mixed up
Mhm.
sometimes.
I mean, it's a
Yeah.
cute movie. That's the best one you can say. It's cute.
mhm.
Yeah, I've definitely seen Once Bitten, and this was before Jim Carrey became like Ace
Yeah.
Ventura type.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one thing
Horror
she
comedy,
said,
yeah.
she said earlier about them coming out of the coffin after having sex, and I just remember they're both smoking cigarettes.
Yes.
and it was just, it was great. It was actually really good for a Jim Carrey movie. I'm not really a huge fan of Jim Carrey's.
Yeah,
I mean, I like The Mask and I like a couple other ones, but
I like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
oh, well, all right, well, yeah, but
That was his first dramatic role, and
Totally
somehow
different.
he nailed it, man. Spike
I
Jones
mean,
must have had a gun
the
to his
Truman
head.
Show too. I mean, the Truman
I
Show
haven't
was
seen
great.
that one. Yeah,
It was really good, but yeah, it's not as Jim Carrey as
right.
you would think. It's actually pretty good. It's funny.
Cool. That's cool.
It's worth watching.
Then you analyzed this for your article, Francis?
Yeah, it was for it was for not Hollywood Vampires, but the one that they just did actually. It's gonna be in the Vampire States of America. And it's gonna be everything from 1985 to 2020. I think it's gonna include modern vampires and there's no such thing as vampires and trapped ashes
Now, are these three different books?
and love bites. Sorry. What?
Are those three different books?
Oh, actually about 5 different movies.
No, but I
I
mean,
think, yeah, starting with
what's your work being published in? Is it magazines, of hard
Oh,
copy,
this
online?
is going to be published in a book.
A book.
It's coming from Routledge. It's going to be called The Vampire States of America. So there's going to be I think there's going to be an article on vampires in Chicago, vampires in New York, and for some reason I got Hollywood again.
So now, is this an anthology or is this all
Yep.
your work?
It's no, it's an anthology. So they're going to be other writers.
But you've got two or
And-
three in there at least, right?
Yeah, I have. Well, actually, I've only have one in here. I think you're getting confused because I had this other article in the Palgrave Handbook of the Vampire, and that is from 1950 to 1979.
Oh, okay.
And this one's from 1985 to 2020. So let me see
What
if I
happened
can-
to those few years in the middle? I mean,
I have no idea because these are 2 separate projects.
okay.
Yeah, that's why. But no, this one's going to include Once Bitten, Love Bites, Trapped Ashes. There's no modern vampires, and there's no such thing as vampires. And there's one something about preying on love or something like it's
I have not
about
seen
these
this.
kids it's about these kids that go to Hollywood and try to make a name for themselves. And it was supposed to be like 3 times long, just ended up like about being a half an hour.
Are they trying to focus on movies that were kind of middle range movies, like mid-budget Hollywood kind of entertainment?
I think they've got like all kinds. They really.
So I'm thinking
they've
with the
got all-
'80s vampires, right? Well, I already named several right there that are just classics. I mean,
Yeah, that might be like I think there was like an Adam Ant one, and that's probably going to be in. It's called Love Bites, and that's going to be probably in the New York.
what did you think of that
New
movie?
York-
Because I read the plot online and I thought it sounded horrible.
Which one?
The one with Adam Ant that I Love Bites. I read the story
Oh,
on.
the gay
and
one.
I was
Yeah.
like, no, it's not really gay. Not based on the description that I read. I mean, there
This
is
one
one
is.
gay suggestion, I guess.
Oh no, this one is very gay. It is, and it's actually on Internet Archive. You'll find it there.
Okay. So you
Yeah.
you think it's the text, not the subtext, because what I read was it was the subtext.
Oh, we see this. There are
But
two
you're good at
love bites.
subtext, so
Yeah, there are two Love Bites films. That's one. There's one featuring Adam Ant, and I don't think there's a gay subtext there at all. And then there's the one I'm
that's the
talking
one.
about
Okay.
called Love Bites. Yeah.
Okay.
And the
I
one
got
I'm
it.
talking about is from 1988, 92. And I think the Adam Ant is like 1991.
Yeah, the Adam Ant one is the one that sounded like really a terrible.
Definitely not gay. Yeah, that one's definitely not gay.
Like there's one line in the description I read where the one character thinks the other guy's hitting on him or something, and I thought, that's it? Francis said this was a gay movie, but yeah, it's a different movie.
Yeah, no, it's a complete. This one I'm talking about is made by a gay producer, director, and writer.
Now, when you say gay, is it
And there are
man on man?
lots of nude scenes. Yeah,
Okay.
they're all men.
Goodness.
And there are quite a few nude scenes too.
Well, that's pretty ahead of its time.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, that's cool. Maybe
And it's
considered a
funny because when
LGBT classic.
the opening scene actually, you'll see a poster of Once Bitten hanging right there.
If you tell me one of
But-
the characters is, you know what, to Jim Carrey, I'm gonna. Anyway,
No, it's a historical. I mean, you've got to watch it. It's a historical film. I mean, it's basically about one guy who wants to be a vampire hunter, and he's having sex with this other guy, and he's trying to get him interested in hunting this vampire. He's like, I'm sorry, you're too weird, guy. You're too weird. I'm leaving. So he's obsessed with finding the vampire, and he finally goes to the vampire's house. He meets the vampire's lover, and he eventually falls in love with with the vampire himself. And then at the end, he sort of converts the vampire back to a mortal. He gives him a love bite,
okay.
and they become normal.
See, I like stories like that because that a lot of that stuff works its way into my story, where you just have characters who are incidentally gay and they have their own like love story, and there's a genre element. I mean, they're not the lead characters of my story, but they're not tiny characters either. I mean, I've gotten to the point where I started, pardon the pun, I started orienting myself that way about 30 years ago. Like I made a intersex sorcerer character long before I ever met a transgender, whatever they're going by now, character, trans person. And so it's kind of prophetic. But so yeah, I like that. I like the way you described that. Did you think it's a decent movie? Do you think it's successful?
I think it's a really fascinating movie. I mean, there's one great part where, this guy's absolutely intent on hunting the vampire down. And he's having a discussion with the vampire's, I guess, lover or friend. And he says to him, well, how do you know that vampires are bad? He goes, well, the media says it. So, I mean, there's very much, sort of the allegory between vampire and gays.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Weird.
But then even then, I mean, they have the vampire become normal. But it is fascinating. I mean, you have this whole subtext
just
about,
sailing over my head. The subtext is getting. I missed it. I'm getting.
so
rusty here.
it's the vampire hunter saying, "No, we got to hunt him down. He's evil." And the other guy goes, "Well, look, how do you know they're evil?" He goes, "Well, I see them on TV. I see them in films, and they're all evil." And he goes, "Well, you should just really try them out, talk to him, and find out." So, I mean, there's very, very much, the gay subtext.
Have you ever tried not being a vampire?
You can't judge people with the media.
Wow, I'll have to check that out.
Yeah,
All
as I said, it's on Internet Archive, so you can definitely. I think actually it might be on YouTube too.
Okay.
But I don't know. Just one last word about Once Bitten.
Yeah.
It's very much sort of an anticipation of Fatal Attraction and Working Girl. Good girls get the man. The aggressive ones do not.
I don't really have an opinion on that. I don't know. I can't.
Well, this is a 1980s type thing. I mean, that was sort of,
well,
yeah.
1980s,
But that seems like a very typical Hollywood trope that they've been rolling out about some sort of social commentary on how women are supposed to behave. And if you're a good girl, you'll get this. And if you don't, you still get it. You know what I mean? So
that's true.
It's true of men
but
too now.
They make a huge deal of it in here, I think, in the 1980s.
Yeah, that's
women
like
need to be demure, to be like, at least girly. And I think in the 1970s, the films were actually more feminist. So I mean, I think they really do become much more reactionary in the 1980s, and it's probably just carrying over from there.
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Sexual politics in horror films. Who would have thought? Just kidding.
Everything is politics.
What's that movie? What's that book, Bill? Chuck, you know, the one with, I forgot her name. Something Women and Chainsaws. That was really
yeah.
That was a cool book, man.
Yeah.
What's it called?
It has 3 words, but Something Women
remember.
and Chainsaws. And it's, to my knowledge, it was the first one written by a woman that sociologically digs into the subtext and sexual politics of horror movies and slasher movies.
I think all horror, I mean, all fiction is political. At one point or another.
Yeah, well, it's about society, structures.
Yep. It's what we fear.
I do fear politics. I'm kidding.
It was Men, Women, and Chainsaws.
Oh,
okay.
Okay.
Men, women. Okay. Awesome. So yeah, please subscribe, guys.
My turn. Subscribe and like.
Yeah.
Hit the little bell.
Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you.
Yes. Type.
We love you. We'll always be thinking of you.
Really? Really?
Wow.
Where's the always things? You're like anything
Part one with our audience. Our audience. That's a Bauhaus song, if y'all remember that. All right. Take care.
We love our audience.
Yeah, Chuck knows the song. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Guys Gone Out was the jam when I was in college. All right, so So Briggy told me she was going to be talking about this movie that she was excited about, and it's definitely, I think it's a classic, but I'll let her decide.
Yeah. So welcome everyone. So the movie that I have this week is Fright Night, the 1985 original Fright Night. Which I'm going to highly recommend before I even start, because I watched this movie years ago and I haven't seen it in a very long time. It's sort of like a book you read, then you don't read it again, and then once you read it, you realize that there were things that you didn't realize, that or scenes or passages that you missed, not because the book changed, but because you changed. And that's kind of how this movie affected me. It was so good. Takes place and again in a small town where all sorts of horrible things happen in small towns. Well, they happen everywhere, but in a small town, you would not expect it. And before I get into that, I just want to kind of go over a little bit of the cast. Actually, the director, Tom Holland, this was like his first movie that he's ever directed. So it's his coming out party. And he also wrote the movie as well, which I think is absolutely amazing.
She didn't mean that as a pun either.
No, I didn't mean it.
I mean, it could be taken as a pun, but I mean,
you're right. So this was
Aaron and I were discussing this aspect of it earlier.
Of what?
The aspect that you just kind of spoofed with your verbiage.
Oh, wait, coming out?
Yeah.
Oh no, I mean he's in terms of his debut.
I mean, I'm friends with Tom Holland on Facebook. He's way out. He's been out. I mean, he smashed that closet decades ago. He broke.
Oh, so he's out like that too.
Yes.
So he's out and he's out.
Oh, do you not know all about this movie? The behind the scenes?
We're going to find out.
Okay, we're going to find out, but I want you to talk about the movie.
We're going to,
then we'll get into the gossip. No, I'm kidding.
So he's, all right. So he wrote and directed this movie. Again, I love it because of cinematically so amazing. The actors, let's see, I just wrote it down. Chris Sarandon, William Bagsdale, Amanda Beers, and of course, Rodney McDowell, who was amazing. If you don't know who he is,
Cornelius and Caesar.
Cornelius and Caesar. If you don't know who Cornelius and Caesar are,
deep cut. Alan Musgrave.
Right. Put his name in, and you'll find out. Absolutely tremendous actor. Okay. I'll tell you, he was like in the original Planet of the Apes. When did that come out? Does anybody remember when that came out?
Of course,
around 68 or something.
68.
When?
68. He was in all but the second one. The only reason he wasn't in the second one is because he was directing Tam Lin. So they got another guy to play
Oh,
Cornelius.
right,
But they didn't
right,
give Cornelius much dialogue, and since he had makeup, I
right.
thought for him it was him for years. And
Yeah,
then
so
it's
did
like,
I.
oh
Yeah.
damn. I'm like,
Yeah.
why is Cornelius so quiet? But now I know.
Yeah. Well, now
Yeah, he
we
plays
know.
Cornelius in the first and third, and then his
Right.
son Caesar in this fourth. I have action figures of all of them on my kitchen mantle. They're
Amazing.
beautiful. But go ahead.
And Stephen Jeffries as Evil Ed. So that's the sort of the bulk of the cast. Again, like I said, this movie starts in a small town. There are two teenage lovers and they're making out. And on the television, there's this show on that's called Fright Night, which the host of the show is Roddy McDowell, and he plays Peter Vincent. He's a vampire killer, and so he talks about scary movies, and there's all this fog, and it's a very sort of it kind of reminds me of like what's the chick's name? She's like vampire. She plays like a
Elvira?
Elvira, yeah.
Elvira, but there
Yeah.
was another person, Vampira. Who was that?
Vampira was in the
Vampira.
50s.
Vampira, right from the
Vampire.
50s, but it's sort of
Vampirella.
yeah.
Yeah, that was the comic book guy.
Yeah, so it was yeah. So
Yeah.
it kind of has that feel to it. It's a little
Rosetta.
campy, and he's on maybe every night, and he's telling his scary stories about chasing down vampires. And so, the male, I would say the hero of the movie, that's his jam. He loves making out with his girlfriend and having that play in the background. And one night while they're making out, he's trying to get her to have sex, and she's like, "Okay, fine, I'm a virgin. I'm going to do it this time." But as she's sort of undressing, he has these binoculars. He sees something right across
But there's another
the
girl.
yard. Yeah, and he sees this there something that really caught his attention. So he starts looking at what's happening in the house right next
Like
door.
Rear Window.
It's kind of a real way. Let me back up. This movie is a little bit of everything. This is why it's so good. It has the Rear Window effect going on, and then there's also like a little bit of a horror. Then it's also, and there's of course it's vampire, but then it's also got like teen Scooby-Doo mystery going on also. It's it's got a little bit of that happening, which
And this was
brings
before Buffy, guys.
oh yeah, well before Buffy. Totally well before
Not a
Buffy.
diss on Buffy, just saying.
Yeah, I mean, no shade to Buffy, but it is what it is. Deal with it. So anyway, so he sees this man. I don't know if he's undressing her, but there is some nudity, but that was the 80s. It was so wild back then from what I understand. So anyway, so he's undressing her, and then he goes in to bite her, and he pulls the blinds down just as he's about to do that. And the male hero totally freaks out. He goes and he's screaming to his girlfriend, who is Amy, and is saying, "Hey, look, there's something weird going on next door." She gets pissed off because she was so ready to do it. And so she decides to leave, and he chases her down the stairs. And of course, there's a clueless mom, drinking wine and looking at television. And she thinks they're upstairs doing homework. And of course, that's what all moms thought in the 80s, I think, anyway. So he goes outside, and then she leaves. And at some point, he sees two people carrying a coffin down into a cellar. And he runs back and tells his mom, "Hey, look, there's something weird going on. Who are these people next door?" And she's like, "Oh, that's so and so. They just bought the place. They're fixing it up. I hear they're out of town." And then he goes, "There's something weird going on over there. We need to investigate." So she's like, "Just leave him alone." And then she says, "Well, hopefully he's single," because she's single. And he's like, "You know what? I hope he's single because it's been a minute for me, and it would be so great, I guess, to have a piece right next door." But the son is pretty much like, "I'm going to find out what's happening here."
Who plays the son? Sorry, who plays the son?
Oh, yeah. The son is played by William Ragsdale.
Okay, I've not heard of him. And I know
William
the girlfriend is
Ragsdale.
Amanda Beers, right?
Oh, she was in Married with Children. She played
Yes,
the right. She played
Marcy. Yeah, Marcy.
the next door. Right, exactly. Yeah, I thought that was a very iconic role for her too. And she pretty much looks exactly the same in
Yep.
terms of how they even styled her hair. I mean, everything, her mannerisms. It's
Yeah, you
very,
couldn't mistake her for anything
no,
else.
no, no, you really can't. You really, really can't. So, so what winds up happening basically is um, the Charlie Brewster, who is the Williams Ragsdale character, the hero, he goes to the police. He tells the police, look, there have been a series of murders in that town. Women have been beheaded. And so he's like, oh my God, I think there's some connection here. So he goes to the police. He manages to get the police over to the neighbor's home. And the police are like, look, kid, we don't have time for this, that sort of thing. And of course, the police don't believe him. But what winds up happening is the vampires are like, listen, you need to mind your business. You need to go home, skedaddle, get lost. He can't do it. And what winds up happening, I'm just going to sort of cut to the chase a little bit here. What winds up happening is as he's trying to convince his girlfriend and another friend of his, which is his name is Evil Ed, which is just he's sort of like comic relief of what's happening. They begin to believe him, but not at first. But before he does that, he goes and he speaks to Roddy McDowell and says, listen, there's a vampire next door. But he says, look, they canceled my show. I don't have time for this shit. I'm leaving. They've canceled my show because everybody just wants to see virgins get slashed and chased around with chainsaws. And they're not interested in vampires anymore. No one believes in the vampire lore anymore. And so they've canceled my show. Well, he believes that he's truly a vampire hunter. He's got his cross, he's got a bag full of tricks, garlic, holy water. He's got everything to stop these vampires. And he decides he's going to go and try to enlist him. And so the Roddy McDowell character is like, you need to leave me alone. He goes back, he talks to his friends. He says, look, I'm going to go in there myself and I'm going to kill them. They believe him now at this point. So they go to Roddy McDowell's house and says, look, you're not going to help him. I'm going to give you $500 if you just go and pretend that you're a vampire killer. And we're going to talk to these guys who are real vampires and they don't know it. And we're going to, basically placate him so that he just leaves you alone. So they go in to the house, they play like they're really vampires. And just as Roddy McDowell is leaving, he had like this little pocket mirror and he looked at it and he noticed as he looked in it, he saw that everyone's reflection was there except for the vampire. And that's when he knew.
That expression is just.
Yeah. It was the acting is so it's so good. It really is good. So he realizes that he's a real vampire. And once he realizes this, it's like, oh my God, like, but I'm not a real vampire killer. And the rest of the movie is kind of like on the job training for him, where he actually starts to believe and things begin to happen and fall into place where he does become a vampire killer.
Charlie has to goad him.
Yeah. But I want to say also, in terms of the special effects, the great part about this movie is that it doesn't give everything away in the beginning. It actually builds up to that. And that's what, to me at least, makes it a good movie, because it's not like they show all, they have some special effects in they do have some, but as the movie progresses, and you see the different ways in which the vampires are killed. Unfortunately, Evil Ed is, he gets bitten and then he also becomes a vampire, but then he also transforms into a wolf, I believe. And then he winds up
Some
getting
vampires can do that.
I'm sorry?
Some vampires can do that. Dracula.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, he turned into a wolf. He gets a stake to the heart, and his transformation from wolf back into human was pretty good in terms of special effects, I thought. Really, really cool for the time. And also the girlfriend is kidnapped at a club and by the vampire, and she gets bitten as well. And the things that happen to her are pretty amazing. Her transformation in terms of becoming a vampire were pretty cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I thought as the movie progressed, the special effects became more intense, and it was a great build up, a good crescendo toward the end. My reviews are such that I don't want to give too much away because I really want people to be able to sit back and enjoy the movie and really go on the journey of the characters and what happens. There is some, like I say, some comic relief in there. It does have that small town feel to it. You don't see the adults too much, which is like basically how many children were raised in that era. They were sort of like these feral children.
Feral children.
Parents didn't know where they were. But so there is that going on. And mind you, these are high school kids. So when you look at it, like this vampire is like full on man. But again, don't let that get in the way of you watching it, go into it with the mindset of, you know what I mean, go into it with the mindset of, yeah.
I really want to watch this. I think I only got
it.
as far as the part where the vampire was visiting the mother and son. That's about as far as I went.
Oh,
I don't know. I don't know why I stopped. I think I had other things to do, but I really want to watch the rest of it.
Oh, it's a good one.
What did you think, Chuck?
Oh, it's great. No, I mean,
did you see it in the 80s?
Fantastic. Yeah, I caught it when it was in the theaters.
I saw it on TV in the 80s, and back, it didn't have a lot to be cut out, so it was fairly
great movie.
You like it?
Yeah,
Bill?
Great. Yeah, great practical effects too. So they did a remake, and it was not terrible unless you've seen the original, and then it was terrible.
I personally really like Colin, but the clips I've seen of it is just kind of I mean, Sarandon was sleazy, but also kind of like sinister. Whereas I thought Colin Farrell played him as kind of just smarmy. That's just It's just how I thought.
Yeah.
What about you, Mr. Aaron? Do you like Fright Night?
Oh yeah, definitely. I like the movie. Like we discussed earlier, I had the privilege of meeting Mr. Sarandon, and he was not the nicest person I've ever met. So
you're not the first person to say that.
Just
the first person to say that was Susan Sarandon.
Wow.
Sure, yeah.
When they got divorced 50 years ago.
It really was. I thought that he pulled off, and you had said it with me earlier that you thought he was playing himself more than anything, maybe. But I don't know. For me, he played a pretty good vampire.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
He's always best when he's an asshole, like Lipstick. Right. He is a fucking sleaze in Lipstick, man. He's just this vile rapist. He rapes the girl, then he wants to rape her sister, and he just can't quit.
Yeah.
He was good on Star Trek Deep Space Nine, like we were talking about.
Oh, that's right. I forgot he is. Yes.
Yeah, fine actor.
Isn't he like Jack Skellington or his voice when he's singing?
Did he?
He either did the singing voice or the actual voice. I can't remember.
What do you think, Tim Burton people? If any of you exist in here.
Right. I didn't know he did the singing.
So I thought when I first heard of him, I thought, oh, is it a coincidence that they have the same last name? Of course, my mom, who grew up on movies and worked in a movie theater in Burlington, North Carolina, in the early 60s, she saw Horrors in the Black Museum and Psycho in the theater the same year, and they terrified her. She was so traumatized, but when I was like 10 years old, she was still traumatized. But she knew all the gossip, all the TV, all the soap operas, all the films, who did what, who had sex with who was related to who. And she was like, yeah, they were married. She said, but he's gay, so she dumped him. and he is gay, but it took decades for that to come out. But the little I've heard from her end was not that he was gay, but just basically they were too young and he was kind of a dick.
Right.
And then she kept his name and became more famous. That's what's so funny about it. He must that must irk the hell out of that guy.
I guess, right?
But
That's
yes,
interesting.
behind the scenes of Fright Night, it is an infamously queer heavy movie, queer friendly movie. Tom Holland is gay. Chris Sarandon is gay. Evil Eddie is gay. Allegedly did gay porn.
Well, there's nothing allegedly about it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's
got a
what
confirmation. 2 confirmations. Please do tell, gentlemen.
He made gay porn.
I mean, you guys collected or? No, I'm kidding.
No,
but it is fairly prevalent knowledge.
Do you want me to?
I don't want to say common knowledge, but fairly prevalent knowledge.
Well, maybe just 1 or 2 scenes, maybe like a key scene, like the climax of the show.
Thanks. I think he's been quite open about it as well. It's,
yeah. When I first heard the rumor, it seems like he did what everybody did back then, which was deny that he was gay, deny he did it. But I know that was how God made you do. I mean, I get that. Well, that's cool. And then Amanda Bears came out as a lesbian, I think, while she was doing Married with Children.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Very good. Heard that about Roddy McDowall, too?
Oh, well, Roddy McDowall, yeah. Roddy You know who one of Roddy McDowall's proteges was? That Roddy McDowall showed this gentleman Hollywood and all these historical things. It was Clive Barker. They did bond over being gay, but they didn't sleep together. But Roddy McDowall was his mentor when he first came to Hollywood to try to get work. And I was like, wow, this is so fucking
amazing.
Barker said Roddy McDowall was just like the coolest, smartest, smoothest dude.
He also, Roddy McDowall, oh, sorry, I was just saying, Roddy McDowall also did a lot of film preservation and film collecting.
Yeah, he have a whole thing in his house of like,
yeah.
Which he might be responsible for.
Oh, go ahead.
I just fact checked myself. It was he did the actual voice. Danny Elfman was the one that did the singing. So.
Oh, for Stillington. Yeah, Bill, what were you saying about the him being responsible?
I think they were saying that he was responsible for some of these films, still existing in some decent condition, because until fairly recently, a lot of this stuff was just completely forgotten, ignored, and some pretty major films were rescued right before they just disintegrated.
Yeah,
and then of course many of them, we lost a whole bunch in the '65 fire. We don't have London After Midnight or 90% of all the silent movies out there. So it was these collectors who really kind of saved the day.
Man, if we didn't have digital, that Universal fire would have destroyed a lot of music.
Yeah. There was a movie that I was going to review, and I just wanted to just mention it. It was Let the Right One In.
Oh, I love that.
Bill covered that last year on here.
Yeah, and I thought that was
wonderful film.
Right. Yeah, I just wanted to sort of shout that out.
It just played theatrically here this past week, but I'm trying to do a spending freeze if I can.
It's another one where the remake is a perfectly good film, and had it been the only one of the two out there, I'd say, boy, that's a really good vampire film, but it's just not a patch on the ass of the original, which is just marvelous and does vampires the way I like to see vampires.
Yeah.
And you don't see them in that Northern Europe that much, and in the snow, and it's just
it's
really great.
Yeah. I think America, its taste and the way they want to portray vampires in a way are not. I don't know. There's just, it's very formulaic in some sense. So of course, if it's done in, say, Europe or something like that, they just have different aesthetic, different taste.
Yeah. We'll say one thing about
they have a ton of.
Oh yeah. Oh no, I was going to say Fright Night also really, I don't know if it introduced it, but it really hit home something that's become something of a trope now, which is the idea that things like the crucifix will ward off vampires, but only if you believe.
Right. That was a theme a theme in the.
Now I don't know. I'd have to look. When did Salem's Lot come out? Because King really played that up too. There's a wonderful scene in the novel.
Yeah, we'd have to ask Justin.
Late 70s, maybe.
The book came out, I think, 75 or 76.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because there's a great scene in that.
But there's a scene in Dracula. Love at First Bite, where they talk about how it has to be a religious symbol that a person believes in, and he's getting ready to get out the Star of David, and the character of Richard Benjamin, he's kind of like a non-Orthodox Jew, and Dracula's kind of scoffing at him, but then he holds it up and it works. The Star of David.
Actually, I think that trope is already present in one of the earlier Hammer films, like Scars of Dracula or something like that. I can't remember exactly which one it is.
It's Dracula has risen from the grave. The priest has to believe when he's like Dracula is impaled on the cross.
That's the one.
And at the end, because let's face it, if you could be a stone cold atheist, you could be Madeline Murray O'Hare. If an actual supernatural vampire or any other supernatural baddie shows up, I'm in church the next day. I mean, come on, dude. It's like, how could you believe in actual supernatural vampires? How could you believe in supernatural evil without at least toying with the premise that there might be an opposite, a supernatural good as well? If vampires were real, the churches would be filled. Oh man, they'd be turning them away. They'd all be stealing holy water.
There is that.
Oh yeah. So, any final thoughts on that one, Briggy, or Aaron, or anyone?
Final thoughts are, go see this movie. I did find it on YouTube. It wasn't free. It was like $3. Just an FYI, or it might be on Tubi.
I think I saw it on Pluto. I think I saw it on Pluto or Peacock. One or the other. I can't remember.
Yeah, we got to see if we can find out. For all the poor people watching, like.
Yeah. But I would say to watch it. I'd like to watch it sort of commercial free. I would sort of have that as a Friday. Halloween is coming up. Get all the movies we've been talking about. Have a little marathon. Get some friends together.
Aaron's been doing his homework, man. He's been watching the movie. He started watching all the movies we were going to cover today.
I need to start doing that as well.
Because you'd already seen some of them.
Funky's talking the truth here. And you know what? When you have all those friends at that party, you should break out the computer, have every one of them, one after another, log in, like and subscribe to this channel. Make it a like and subscribe channel party. And then it's like we're all there enjoying.
I like to go to a channel party.
Yes, everyone should subscribe to the channel and
I think
share the videos.
Yeah.
And drop a like. It's just like 5 seconds, man. Click on that thumbs up. If you accidentally click on thumbs down and you see it, and you messed up, then unclick it and click on the thumbs up. So we need your help. We are in a good spot to really increase our visibility, but it's like a critical one. We're right at that little threshold with the algorithm. So help us out if you can. So we're gonna be back with more vampires.
We're almost there. Almost there.
You are almost there.
We're right there.
Before you know it, be back. Take care.
And it's true that we cannot see that far behind. If we looked all the way in the past, we'd go blind. In the night, from the stars as they've all lived their lives, and the light that they gave as they burned and then died.